Hello, everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle-Aged Guys. We are back again, bullshitting about video games like usual. Let's get the introductions out of the way really quick, just in case you've forgotten who we are. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
And I'm Gray Mouse One.
This particular video right here is going to be a fun little video. I mean, it's a casual little conversation that everybody has had, especially if you're a gamer, and especially if you have folks that you could talk about with games. Shit, if you don't have anybody who's immediately next to you, most likely you've argued with somebody online over Twitter or on a forum or Facebook about this exact subject, all right? And the subject that we're going to be talking about is what, in your view, is the greatest of all time home console video game system, all right? Now, we've had this conversation on film before. Years ago when we first started doing videos and everything else, but it wasn't very well structured and kind of meandered off like something like we were reading off laundry lists pretty much of things, all right? And it was very, very casual, all right? However, you know, I've been seeing this particular question come up again, especially with the rumblings of brand new generation hardware on the horizon, like it always is.
Yeah.
And we decided to go ahead and sit down and actually want to take a stab to make our case about what we think is the greatest of all time video game system. All right. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in this one right here. All right. So we decided previously beforehand the order that we were going to go. And Gray Mouse, he drew the short straw. He's going to go first with his particular presentation. So Gray Mouse, the floor is yours, sir. What is the greatest of all time system in your opinion?
Why do I feel like I got the short end of the stick here, man? I guess that's the first straw, right?
Yeah.
All right. So my pick for the greatest video game system of all time is a very important one. This is a system that took gaming out of the ashes that was left of Atari. And by now, if you don't know, it's pretty much
the VCS.
Yeah, you're right. The VCS.
Shots fired.
Go ahead,
you
Gray Mouse.
threw me off my game, man. No, in all honesty, it has to be no other than the NES. And yeah, I kind of like the NES.
Kinda?
Just a little bit. But
Yep.
no, it goes without saying. The Nintendo Entertainment System brought us out of the gaming crash of the early 80s and brought us into pretty much, the NES is pretty much the grandfather of video games, and current video games rather. Because, I mean, without Nintendo, you wouldn't be a gamer today. It just wouldn't, you wouldn't. You owe your Nintendo, you owe your gaming life to Nintendo. But anyway, and that goes without saying. There were tons of games, and I can't sit here and go through all of them. So I picked a measly 4. All of these games are franchises, or the beginning of franchises. So the games that I chose to represent the system is I'm an RPG fan, is Final Fantasy. This is the game that started it all. And then, so we hear this term being thrown around a lot in recent times, a Metroidvania. That's pretty much where this come from. At the time, the open world, open exploration, you could, there's really no set way of, you could go wherever you want. And then, speaking of going open world and going wherever you want, Zelda, of course, I can't say enough about this game. This is the first game that had a save state, a battery save. So you got man, let me stop with the Zelda because I'll end up talking too much about that. And then my final game that represents the system is no other than Mario and Dunk Hunt, especially Dunk Hunt. I mean, come on, how many people wanted to really shoot the dog? It really irks you, especially after you get up to like stage 100 and the ducks start doing this. all over the place. You know, just that, and that dog sits there and laughs at you when you miss, and clay shooting, of course. But yeah, so the NES, 1985, and actually, what's an interesting little tidbit is that the NES actually had a test market in New York and LA, believe it, of all places. That's where they first tested the market, whether or not they're going to bring the system over to from Japan to the U.S.
It was through Blockbuster, correct? Yeah.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. How many consoles did it sell over its lifetime, Gray Mouse?
That's a very good question. Let me look it up. The Super Whamadyne Wikipedia, which is never wrong, by the way.
Okay.
Worldwide, 61.91 million.
Okay.
Japan, which is known as the Famicom, Family Computer, sold 19.35. America, 34 million. And the other countries around the world, 8.56.
I see. And how many games did it have in this library by the time it finished up?
Why do I feel like I'm being quizzed and stuff like that?
Well, you got the cheat sheet in front of you.
Is it on the test?
You got the cheat sheet in front of you. I think it is. According to the text that I sent out to everybody.
I must have misread that. Actually, that's a very good question. I don't know. I'm looking at it. I don't want to spend too much time looking for that. But I do know it has some problems, game flaws. We all knew, one was the way it was created, the tray. You had to dig, the tray has to go down to connect from the cartridge to the board. And actually, over time, it bent the pins. And what others were there? It had, of course, I can't forget about Rob. And Rob actually was the very interesting thing, because actually Rob helped sell the NES as a toy versus a video game system. Because right after the Atari crash, video games was a bad word anywhere. Nobody would want to put a video game up on the shelf. The toy stores, they didn't want to do it because of what happened, of how much money was lost. And so they marketed the NES with Rob. I think it was called the Action Set, wasn't it?
Yep.
With Rob, and they had two games, Gyromite and Stack'em. So Rob actually helped sell the NES. I mean, what else can you say about that? I think I want to say 500 games was made for it.
According to Google, 714 known licensed games. That's what was released.
Yeah, 714 and 679 of these games were released in America. So that says a lot. Yeah.
Especially at the time when I don't think the Atari VCS or anything else had anything. The Atari 2600 had there wasn't anything that came close to the library of that at that time. All right.
And the thing too is, the beauty thing about it is, this was back in the day when Channel 3 and Channel 4 meant something.
Ha!
I'm just saying.
True. Yep. All right.
All right, that's my this. Let's talk about this real quick. I don't want to overstay my conversation here, but I have spiked this. I have thrown it against the wall. I have dunked it in the water. I have thrown it across the entire yard. I've done everything with this thing.
Dunk it in the water?
It still worked. I'm just saying, you cannot, how many times people did, you cannot, look, you cannot break this thing.
It's indestructible.
It's indestructible.
Yeah. Except for the buttons when you get a little hit on it. But that's
something
that we all know later.
The buttons get a little sticky, But, I mean, look, Nintendo, from the very get-go, up until the Nintendo Switch, people have dropped the Switch from 1,000 feet and picked it up and freaking still played it. I'm just, that says a lot. Yeah. So, okay, that's it with my presentation. Theme.
Okay.
We're up next, sir. Go ahead.
All right. To follow that up, look, this system the NES, just as Gray Mouse mentioned, and I said it many times, you owe your gaming life to Nintendo. So when it comes to this, when it comes to these, when it comes to this system, when it comes to this console, when it comes to this entertainment system, it is an understatement. Nintendo, great. Super Nintendo, the follow-up, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to just talk about this for a second. If you notice, each and every controller that has come out ever since this one has been modeled pretty much after this for a reason. If you really think about it, genres, best-selling games for this console, Super Mario World, obviously, because it came bundled with the damn console. Street Fighter 2 is one of them. Mario Kart is one of them. Donkey Kong Country is one of them. Again, this game sold systems. Street Fighter 2 sold Super Nintendo in 1992.
Yep.
I mean, look, the console released in the Super Famicom released in what, 1990? And then in North America, it released in 1991.
Yep.
And the launch games, it didn't have many. But it was playing catch up to the Sega Genesis, and that's when the real big console war began. You guys talk about Xbox, PlayStation. No, that was the real console war, the Sega Genesis and the SNES. People were getting into fights, fist fights, in elementary and junior high schools because of those consoles.
Blast processing.
Okay. And then, look, some of the greatest games of all time, they packed in this. So I don't even have to go in further explanation other than that. So please, Super Nintendo, man, that will always be the top to me because shit, losing hours, renting games, good games, great games, beat 'em ups, RPGs, this, fighting games and their clones, this, beat 'em up clones, this. Please, just this. It had what? As far as the games went, as far as the gaming library, 721 were released in North America. But overall, it had over 1,700 released, official release titles worldwide. So, again, and this is another thing. The Super Nintendo was discontinued in North America in 1999, and overseas, like I think in Japan, it was discontinued in 2003. It had 8-bit games. Yes, it did. It has 16-bit games, which it was known for, and it actually kind of kicked off the 32-bit era. Part of that. It was. Regardless of what anybody says, it was hanging with the PlayStation and the Saturn and all the other 32-bit things at the time. Hit my microphone there. So, Reverend, you have the floor.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the thing is that when it comes to the choices that you guys have, I think Nintendo is definitely like a shoo-in for this particular conversation. With the NES, it's the one that reignites the industry. The Super Nintendo is like an evolutionary step above it, where it's like, hey, look, this is like 2D perfection, all right? And this is even more than a lot of the games on the NES. A lot of timeless classics that have aged better have come out on the Super Nintendo. All right. Now the system that I went with, I probably went with due to sheer numbers. All right. Let me go ahead and throw this out here for you. All right. For a system that was released out in Japan, March 4th, 2000. All right. It tops the best-selling consoles total at over 156 million consoles sold worldwide. All right. It is followed very closely by the Nintendo DS, and below that, it used to be the Game Boy as far as the most universally owned system. All right. Okay. The number of games published on this system. There was more than 3,874 game titles released on this system since launch in North America, Europe, and in Asia. All right. Over 1.5 billion copies of software sold worldwide. All right. So what system am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the Philips CDI.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I am talking about this right here. This does not look stock, but all you have to do is you got to look at that right there, and that's Sony PS2. All right. Look, I this is the fat system. This is the one that I first owned, that I modded up and everything else. One of the reasons why I chose this as what I think is the greatest of all time consoles is that, Sony did break the mold. They really did change the industry when they put out the PS1. The truth of the matter is that the games on the PS1 did not age anywhere near as well as do the ones on the PS2. True. All right.
Very true.
In fact, for a while there, when God of War 2 came out, it looked better than any PS3 game that was out on the market for for 6 months. All right. Okay. I'm not kidding. All right. This system right here, I mean, a lot of people went ahead and they used it for as a DVD player, but when it came to things that are regularly represented within the market and the industry today, a lot of the stuff started with this particular generation. All right, the better advanced 3D graphics, check. All right, internet play, that was introduced by the Xbox, but that's available on here, check. All right. Hard drive, as far as hard drive storage and everything else, that was introduced by the Xbox, but again, was made use of right here. And the one thing that I always point to whenever somebody is really asking whether or not they want to go ahead and pick one system up over another, this one's backwards compatible with the PS1 games. Not only is it backwards compatible with PS1 games, it's backwards compatible with majority of the PS1 accessories and controllers. All right. And the fact that you can throw a network adapter and a hard drive on these fat systems here make them really, really versatile systems. You can sit there, you could hold a whole library of games on that using certain hacking tools like free McBoot, memory card boot, and OPL and stuff like that. You could sit there and you could boot off the games off of network devices like NAS boxes that are all the way across your house and other things. There's just a lot of things that this particular system can do. All right. There are other systems that can do similar things. Some things they do better. Some things they don't do at all. All right. And that's just the truth. But when it comes to, like I said, this is the closest thing to the most universally accepted game console in the world right now, especially with the number of systems that are out there. And the cool thing is that if you're interested in traveling back and actually appreciating not only the console, but the games itself, you don't have to go back that far, and you can find them all over the place. They're not going to cost you an arm and leg. Like the other guys did, there are a few games that I went ahead and I chose as games that were standouts to me. And I didn't want to go, okay, the problem with the size of the library that it has is that a lot of really, really obvious games are obvious for a reason. They're classics, but they get talked about all the time, okay? But the other thing, too, is that a lot of them get remade, and they've shown up on the newer systems, like either remastered or HD remakes or whatnot, all right? For some reason, these games have not shown up as remastered or HD remakes, all right? Dark Cloud and Dark Cloud 2, all right? This particular series of games is absolutely fucking excellent, all right? Full 3D action RPGs. If you've played and you love ActRaiser, all right, these are the closest things that are going to come to it, all right? Absolutely. The first ActRaiser, as far as building your village up and your followers and everything else, all right? The PS2 was also home to multiple niche titles, all right?
Yes, that.
One of the ones that I want to go ahead and I always talk about that a lot of people don't mention is this particular game right here, Sky Gunner. All right, by those guys, Atlas. All right.
Who are they? Never heard of that developer before.
If you've never played Sky Gunner, I would have to say that this is probably the closest thing on the PS2 to Crimson Skies. All right. So yeah, this is a great open 3D flight dogfighting game. Very deep on the story and everything else. All right. The other thing that I liked about the PS2, especially around the time that it was there, is that it's not so far back that that a lot of publishers were forgetting classic back titles in libraries, but they're also willing to go out of their way and take particular IPs and experiment with them. All right. For instance, I would love this particular set of games to come back out from Capcom. All right. Maximo, the Army is in, and Ghost of Glory. These are pretty much the updated open world 3D versions of Ghosts and Goblins. All right. Maximo as the title character and everything else, he takes a cue from Arthur. All right. He even loses his armor and runs around in his heart printed drawers also. Okay. And the thing about that is that when they made these particular games, the guys who did it, they were fans of the original Ghosts and Goblins, the Ghouls and Ghosts series, so much so that they went out of their way to even replicate the severe spikes in difficulty when it comes to actually transversing these games and getting through them. So, yeah. But that's actually just a few of the games in the library overall. Yeah, the PS2, man. That's my choice for greatest of all time game consoles.
The PS2, what's so good about that, which actually that would probably be my secondary, if I would pick a secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But is the versatility of the library. Because whatever type of game fan you are, a shooter, you're covered. Sports, you're covered. Dance, you're covered. Freaking music and rhythm, you're covered. RPG, covered. Fighting, covered. And everything off the top of your head. What is it? Real-time strategy, you're covered. Action adventure, you're covered. Racing, you're covered.
Weird-ass puzzle games, you're covered.
Puzzle games, you're covered.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those versatile, I think that's even today, up to today, it's still the most versatile game library of all time. Yeah. So to bring this on forward, so I can't pick the PlayStation 2 as my second because obviously that's your first. So my secondary would probably be the Xbox.
Okay, cool.
That, like you said, you mentioned previously that the Xbox actually, I have it, but I just don't, it's all connected to my TV because I play it.
Yeah.
But, but it was the first to have the hard drive on board. You could connect it to the internet. And what makes it so beautiful is that Xbox Live, that is the first online gaming network / what, where you could have somebody, you could sit across the, you have somebody here, and then you could, and so it's just amazing to me. That's where it started,
In America.
Yeah, in America.
Yeah.
But and then a couple of the games, some of the greatest games. That's where Halo started, and you mentioned before. I got to say this. Crimson Skies.
Yep.
That one, and then also Project Gotham Racing is an excellent one. There is some versatility in the Xbox library, but it could have done better. It's nowhere near the PlayStation 2s, but it's pretty much, they have stuff for everybody. They have sports games, they had rhythm games, They had puzzle games. They had, these niche titles. They had RPGs. They had fighting, Dead or Alive. And then, they have shooters, third-person shooters like Max Payne. They had the Ninja Gaidens, and actually they had Dead or Alive Extreme, the first game with the volleyball. This is when Xbox was actually revolutionary. And I remember, I don't know if y'all guys remember, but the Blade system, before they came out with the dashboard now, it had a blade, it's like kind of like Netscape, it had these little tabs off to the side. And and then when you turn the system on, you felt power, because that thing did I was like, damn, listen to this thing. It showed it was powerful. And then
I was planning to satisfy my wife.
And then if you left it on the main screen, you could actually hear it talking and whispering in the background. You hear these, so ghosts in your machine and stuff, right? But no, this Xbox would be my secondary. How about you, Theme? What would be your secondary?
Your first was initially my secondary. I mean, if you don't have it, I mean, the NES, yeah, NES, yeah. But my secondary will be the Sega Dreamcast. You talk about a system that had everything that these current systems took from it. Pretty much is the Sega Dreamcast. You said online gaming. Japan had that for the Sega Dreamcast.
Yep.
They had that shit online, and it was no lag with the games. I mean, versus games specifically. I have a Japanese Dreamcast, and I used to play on the network all the time with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and games like Power Stone 2 and even Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So, again, love the Sega Dreamcast. You talk about peripherals, the House of the Dead 2, the Typing of the Dead. Look, yeah, I still have the keyboard for that shit, and I still fucking play it on my. And that's the reason why I didn't bring out the Dreamcast, because it's, as Graymouse said, his shit's actually hooked up, and so is mine. Please. The only thing that was wrong about the Dreamcast was the initial controller, but it had third-party controllers. It even had a Sega Saturn adapter. They fixed everything that they needed. It even has a PlayStation 2 adapter and a GameCube adapter for the fucking Dreamcast. Why do you think that is? Motherfuckers want to play their shit with their certain types of control, and the Dreamcast, because, look, man, okay, yeah, you can mod it to shit. You can have boot disc for the Dreamcast and copy the games like all hell. No, it didn't have a DVD player on it, whatever. But as far as the quality of games and genres that you couldn't get nowhere else, Soul Calibur says hello. The first fucking Soul Calibur sold the fucking console in America. Yeah. I mean, damn, the Sega Dreamcast for me.
What I liked about the Sega Dreamcast was the fact that the VMUs, actually, at least in Japan, I don't know here in America, but you could actually take the VMU out your system, right? You could actually plug it into the arcade and take your characters that you've unlocked to the arcade and use them to play it.
You couldn't do that here in the States. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. In Japan, you could do that.
Yeah, witness me doing that type of stuff in Japan all the time. Oh, and Shenmue. Damn it.
Yep, which is me coming out here. Yeah. I would have to say my particular alternate would be this particular system. If not this one, in particular the Game Boy lineup of consoles, all right? And this is my modded one with a light with the fucking brightness adjuster. But unlike that one right there, I've got a headphone jack on mine. All right, but I've got to worry about replacing
flip phone for a second.
Yeah.
Oh God.
the Game Boy lineup of consoles, all right, was, especially considering that it was backwards compatible, had like freaking hugest library available, literally. All right, the Game Boy itself pretty much by itself established the portable portion of the video game industry. All right. You know, the ability to go ahead and to change these up. You have also the fact that you can play your Game Boy games on the Game Boy Player, or if you were somebody like me and just had a Super Nintendo, you had the Super Game Boy for, you know, Game Boy games, or if you had the Super Game Boy 2 for that worked, I believe, with Game Boy Color games also. Yeah, that one also worked. All right.
And notice what's in there. Yeah, follow the Foot Clan, damn it.
Yep. But you know, the thing about this is that the biggest strength of the Game Boy, like I said, is its fucking library of games. All right.
Library.
Of which I'll talk about a few. Okay. Just to get my my own little geeky quirks out of the way. If you've ever played the River King series, all right, for the Game Boy at all, this is basically a fishing RPG game. Okay, where you go out and you level up and you get better equipment and better lures and stuff like that. You know, fishing and catching different things all over the place. All right. Legend of the River King 2 is actually one of the better ones, and that's all the way on the Game Boy Color. Natsume actually used the fishing system for this for the real fishing games. So if you're just looking at just regular fishing games, that's another game you can sit there and you can go to and look at. All right. But if we're talking about the Game Boy Advance in general, no Game Boy Advance library is complete without Metroid Fusion.
Ooh,
all right.
No, it's not.
Yeah, this is the last true, 2D Metroid that they put out in the series, and everything else, and it's a great continuation of the series, especially 4. After Super Metroid. All right,
yeah. Metroid 4.
Yep. Now, the cool thing about the Game Boy is that a lot of developers and publishers who actually went away from working with Nintendo came back to go ahead and start doing games with them again, and one of the games that you can only find on the Game Boy Advance is Guardians Heroes Advance, all right? And this is developed by Treasure, published by Ubisoft, all right? And if you know anything about Treasure Games, they don't like doing sequels, okay?
Yeah.
In fact, majority of the games that they put out there, I think Guardian Heroes has a sequel, Sin and Punishment has a sequel, and Gunstar Heroes. Gunstar Heroes Advanced, which is on the Game Boy Advanced. Also, all right, that's also another game that you want. Oh, WarioWare, another one, just another game that you can't find anywhere else. All right,
L to the yeah.
But that would definitely right there would be my particular alternate right there, and yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up this in-depth conversation about it. Because like I said, usually when we go out of our way, we start talking about this stuff, it's like, oh yeah, we name something, we name a few games, and then before we even start getting really deep into reasons why we even liked it or anything like that, is that something else comes up and we start naming off more games for that particular system, right? But yeah, that's pretty much what the middle-aged guys, our choices for the greatest of all time console. For Gray Mouse, NES. For the theme, it's a Super Nintendo Entertainment System or the Super Famicom, depending on what side of the pond you're on. For me, it's the PS2. What we really want to know, folks, like usual, is what is your choice? What is your thoughts on what is the greatest of all time home console system? You can let us know by leaving us a comment below. While you're at it, if you like this video, we'd appreciate the like. If you honestly didn't like it, you could hit dislike. Either way, tell us why, please, okay? That at least we'll know from your comments whether or not you've watched the whole thing, all right? And I think that counts for a lot, okay? And if you really want to go ahead and encourage us to go ahead and put out more videos on a more regular basis, I do suggest that you subscribe, turn on those notifications, and then you'll know whenever we go ahead and we put out any other videos, whether it's by ourselves or everybody together, like right here as the middle-aged guys. All right. With all of that, all of our bullshit about the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time, I'm going to let you finish. The greatest of all time console system ends right here. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
I'm Gray Mouse 1.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and gaming. Credits.